Mars next. I am super excited. We're not in Mars yet. We're in Toronto, and we're going to be leading the discussion in MedTech, all things MedTech. I have Randy, my partner in crime, co-host. You want to go ahead and introduce our amazing guest?
So our amazing guest is Yulun Wang. I don't think I'm going to even bother to try and go through all the various titles of interesting things you do. So maybe I'll ask you. You have 3 titles listed: Sovato Health, World Telehealth Initiative, and Teladoc Health. What do you do? Because
yeah, so I'm trying to figure it out myself, but I'm involved in 3 different organizations right now. I'm a fellow at Teladoc because my company InTouch Health was acquired by Teladoc in 2020, and so I'm still a part-time fellow there. I'm the chairman of a nonprofit called World Telehealth Initiative, where we actually take telemedicine and volunteer clinical expertise to deliver care into under-resourced areas of the world. And then I'm a chairman and co-founder of a company called Sovato Health, where we're enabling remote surgery. So we're taking robotic surgical systems and enabling them to operate at distance.
And that's not even the most interesting part of your career. This was just this is like a third act for you. Could you tell us a little bit about your background before this?
So my background is I started a company called Computer Motion in 1990, and Computer Motion was it was the first company to do surgical robots. And then that company merged with Intuitive Surgical in 2003, and then I started a company called InTouch Health, which was one of the original companies to do telemedicine. And the reason for that transition is because in 2001, while still at Computer Motion, I was involved in something which today is called the Lindbergh operation, where Professor Jacques Moresco sat in New York City and he operated on a patient in Strasbourg, France. And that was done on September 7th, 2001. And so that was my introduction to telemedicine. And then when I started InTouch Health, timing wasn't right yet for telesurgery, but was right, I thought, for telemedicine. It was a long process, but it turned out to be true. And then now Sovato is now going after remote surgery.
This is awesome, because when I hear you with InTouch, I know one of your big clients was Centera, correct?
Yes.
And that's where my stomping grounds are in Virginia Beach.
Yeah.
And so this is why we do this show. We connect these dots on all things, and the robotics, man, that's awesome. So timing is everything.
It is.
You know?
So it seems like there's sort of 2 threads running through your career history. One is automation around actual surgeries. The other one is care where the provider and the patient are not co-located. But how do you can you tell us, like, is there a story behind this of how this all pulls together for you, or how your passions?
Well, so that's very astute. I mean, the 2 things I know something about is, on one hand, I understand robotic surgery. And robot surgery didn't start really for automation. It started for improving human dexterity and to be able to take the surgeon and give him or her precision and manipulative capabilities which weren't possible before. And then the last, say, 15, 20 years of robotic surgery has really around making that surgeon sit in basically a cockpit where you're bringing more information to the surgeon. So you put the improved dexterity on top of the more information, you enable the surgeon to be even better. But then what happened, as I mentioned, because of that Lindbergh operation, I got turned on to telemedicine, and then bringing things together again, that brings to bear a third, I think, significant value proposition, and that is to enable a proceduralist, whether it's a surgeon or interventionalist, to use their skills at distance. And I think that, to your question, what brings it all together is, I think everyone's trying to figure out how do you bring better, high quality surgery or healthcare to everybody at a lower cost. And I think putting these pieces together have that possibility.
So instead of sort of doing more with less, it's doing better with less.
It's actually, I think, one of the interesting things about healthcare is high quality costs less. Not always true for various industries. Like, usually you get a higher quality car, refrigerator, or whatever, it's going to cost more. Well, high quality healthcare costs less.
It's funny, Dr. Geraldine McGinty, who's on, she's the dean of Columbia's med school now, Cornell's med school, excuse me, once said to me, it wouldn't bother me so much the percentage of our GDP we spend on healthcare if we actually had outcomes that matched what we spent on it. Like if we were the healthiest people in the world, it'd probably be worth it to, drop 20% of our GDP on healthcare. So this wasn't on my question list, I apologize, but you've been in front of the FDA and other regulators twice, very early on. Like first, we're gonna have a robot do something for the surgeon. The second time is we're gonna have a robot do something for the surgeon over a telephone line. Like how do you start that conversation when you're the first?
Well, I think the goal is to engage with the FDA or other regulators as partners. And in fact, so the recent engagements with Sovato, we've been engaging with the FDA. And the good news is bringing high quality healthcare to everybody is part of their charter. And so they resonate with the Sovato story. And so if you have aligned purpose, then the process which you go through should become very synergistic. They have the job of making sure things released onto the market are safe and effective for everybody, which is what we intend to do. We got to prove it to them, but at least our goals are aligned.
We're really lucky to have you here. Obviously, you meet the category of visionary. Where do you see things going?
Well, so I'm always been very excited about the future and the future of how technology is going to influence things. Robotics is, I think, still very exciting. Robotic surgery has been, I guess, on its third decade. However, it's still got a long ways to go with the concept of remote and providing access everywhere. That still has a long ways to go. Now you start incorporating things like, everyone's talking about the whole AI arena. That's going to clearly impact a lot of things. You put together the robotic capabilities with the distance capabilities together with advanced technologies like AI, different new sensors, and those types of things. There's tremendous future possibilities.
So a lot of people here at all stages, from founders to established startups to acquirers to a lot of people from strategic development partnerships at the strategic companies. People are looking at acquisitions. So if you were going to put on a hat, like you're looking for the next generation of acquisitions around surgical robots, what would you be looking for? What advice would you give a founder right now, given that there's now, I think last I saw 65 surgical robots that have been, gotten past the FDA? Like, where are the opportunities now?
Well, I think you want to look for white spaces, and there's a lot of them, right? I mean, the robotic industry has been dominated by one company for 25 years, and they do what they do incredibly well. But there's a lot of areas outside of that. There's various natural orifices, endovascular work, micro surgical kind of techniques, etc., which are white spaces. And so I think some of those 65 companies are working on those different areas. I think the other thing which is going to change the game is you put remote into the mix of value propositions. That can certainly change the game in terms of value proposition too. And so being able to operate at distance when previously you couldn't changes what kind of mechanisms or what kind of surgeries you want to be able to target to do that. So I think it's an exciting time for a lot of innovative opportunities. I think you, as a founder of a new company, I'm not sure you want to go straight after where the entrenched people are very entrenched.
So it sounds like a lot of opportunities around specialization, subspecialization of types of surgery, either procedures or methods or those kinds of things. You're saying is where the white space is?
Yes, I think that's right. And and then access to different parts of the anatomy in different ways.
So one other question, it's of course, because it's 2024. AI clearly has come a long way since you first started this. How is that changing or not changing the trajectory of these things? How do you see that, challenges, boosts, whatnot?
I think it can change a lot. And I'll put on my Teladoc hat for a second. Teladoc is a publicly traded company, probably the largest sole play company in digital health. And digital health, I think, is the umbrella under which AI can operate, because you need things to be digital for you to apply AI in. And so if you have a very powerful AI agent, whether that agent is helping a provider or helping the patient directly are two big categories. And then amongst providers, you have, clinicians, doctors, nurses, therapists, coaches, etc. And you can help on all of those dimensions. And then whether you're talking to a patient around just general advice or mental health or any type of specialty, there's a tremendous opportunity to put AI between a provider and a patient. And then you have AI engines which can listen in an ambient or non-obstructive way, so that you can, say, automate the note generation of a conversation, even automate the billing. There's a number of places where AI can take a lot of friction out of healthcare.
Do you see it also coming in? Because a lot of the early emphasis was, assisting diagnostic radiologists with interpretation or assisting a coder with coding. That's AI being sort of an exoskeleton for one person. What are you seeing in terms of AI becoming a teammate for a team of people in healthcare?
Well, I think that's the right way for AI to go, is not to automate something and replace some kind of person or specialty. And you take the example of the radiology, it still hasn't replaced the radiologist, where, I think people were projecting that to happen many, many years ago. There's just so many corner cases, so many values that the human brings into it. I think it's, I hear of kids still becoming radiologists, so they're not afraid of that job going away. But I think it's really to empower or augment humans in the various capacities.
Interesting. All right. So before we do a wrap-up question, you've got so many things you're working on. What should we have asked you? What message do you want to share to the healthcare world, or what's interesting? What should people tune into?
Well, I actually gave a talk the other day to a bunch of college graduates, and I talked about what they should spend their time and their career on, and obviously you want to focus on your passion. Mm-hmm. One of the things I also mentioned was you also want to maybe take a little more risk. Mm-hmm. To follow your passion, and then in combination with those two things, you want to try to do something good for the world. And I've been very fortunate and blessed to have stumbled upon healthcare as my career. And so I think that I would encourage anybody who's thinking of that pathway, that there's a huge amount of opportunity in there to do exciting things which are good for people.
Right. And if the theory is we're paying too much for low quality care, and some people are making a lot of money doing fairly mediocre care at best, think of what you should get paid if you're actually cutting costs and delivering good care.
Yeah. And the thing, I think, the U.S. system, it can produce the best quality health care there is in the world. It can also produce the worst.
Yes.
And it's like, how do we get it to shift to where it's all the best? Yes. And that's really the issue, as opposed to, we always deliver mediocre care. Yeah. Like if I get really sick, I'm staying in this country for my health care. And so it's figuring out how to shift everything right.
Right. But if you're from an extremely poor village and you need basic population health and vaccines, what country do you want to be in?
Yeah, well, good question.
Do we wrap it up?
Yeah, let's wrap it. Okay, so one other question we have, which is, there's like 200 sessions here.
Yeah.
Which one are you excited about?
Well, this morning I went to the robotic surgery one.
Okay.
And I'm going to listen to some of the innovation ones.
Okay.
Yeah.
You pick up any new gold nuggets so far?
Not anything that I've processed yet in my mind, but some interesting stuff.
Great. Well,
Yeah.
thank you for coming out, joining us here. You're our first interview at the conference. So we
It's
appreciate
my
it.
pleasure. Thanks
All
for
All right.
having me.
Thank you.